Hello and welcome back to the channel that always seems to upload when I feel like it. I am your boy Chasters, and today I am making this video to talk about what it's like to sell at events, or how to start selling at conventions or small markets. So I kind of have like this little cheat sheet I'm kind of just going to read off of some tips and ideas that I wrote down that not 100% follow guide. Things are all different. Not all cons are run the same. Some cons are run different event runners, different areas, different shows. So I would look into, if you're planning on selling at a show that's within your area, look into maybe their frequently asked questions or some people that sell there a lot and ask, say, like, what are some, how is this event for you, But to start, I would say you would probably need like a guarantee thing. Is you would have to have some sort of portfolio or some sort of online storefront like Etsy or something, somewhere, either an online storefront, a portfolio, or your own website that you can display your works. I have both an Etsy and a portfolio that I made. You can find all sorts of websites online where you can go and you can set up your work, whether it be digital, traditional, however you want it done. Having a portfolio is the best thing you can do to help show off your work and what you're trying to sell to events and cons. Event showrunners are going to want to see what you make. They're going to want to make sure that what you're selling is you are actually selling it and it's something that you've actually made, not AI generated or copied or traced or anything like that. So a portfolio is a great place to show, like, these are the works that you make, things that you've done. You could even on a website, you could write things that you've worked on, projects or companies that you've worked for, to kind of give, like, it's an accolade page of sorts. When I first started out making my work, I did not have a portfolio. I did not know how to make one, and I didn't know where to go to do it. So when I opened my Etsy, that worked the same way. A lot of events will have, when they do their application fill out process, they will have you put a spot for a website or a URL to put your portfolio or your shop. I started out with my Etsy, and I just would put my Etsy link there. That way all of my products that are for sale, they're on the website and they can go through and see some of the products that I'm making. So I'd say for the first and foremost, what I would do for selling at an event is I would get a portfolio or some sort of free website, whether it be Etsy or a website that you can make, whatever works best for you. Just a way to have your work put out in a way that other people can see it is the best place that I would start for starting to sell at events. So you're probably wondering, how do you get into a con? How do you get into a convention or a market? Getting into groups of local artist group, I think, is a great place to start. Either online, in person, if you meet up and do art, or if you have like an online group that you meet up with, I would recommend doing that. There's nothing better than word of mouth, and the amount of events that you miss just by not either knowing the area, the event, or like any of the people that you know, like not knowing any information is the majority of the reason as to why most events are missed. If you have a little group of friends or a group of artists and you're all looking out for events, it kind of comes up on an Instagram feed or on Facebook, TikTok, things like that, of like local events even to your area. I would recommend doing that. Getting with people that you know that are also trying to sell at events, I think, is a great way to find out events. And even if you apply to it once and it's great, and you apply to it again next year and you get accepted, then that can just be a reoccurring event that you go to. And also knowing like how far you're willing to go to an event if you travel somewhere, if it's either out of state or if it's in another country or if it's just, in another city, you have to also account for those things too. Most conventions make it really easy to apply to their event. Usually it's a Google Doc form or some sort of like form online that you fill out and then submit it, or it's a long thing. But some events that get really big, they do have a lot of people, a lot of flow. So you gotta make sure that you're on top of it. But for smaller local cons and smaller local markets, that shouldn't be too much of a problem of selling out, except if they have like limited space. So I would just check on that. But filling out the application for an event or a convention is pretty straightforward. Kind of just follow the directions on there. If it asks for Like the portfolio, for example, like I mentioned earlier, you could either link your portfolio that you've made, or you can link the Etsy or storefront that you have, and that will also work as well. Once you submit it, you just have to wait until the deadline is over. They'll pick their artists, and then they'll go from there. So let's say you got accepted into your first ever event. Congratulations. What exactly do we do now at this point? At this point, you're gonna need stuff to sell.
This is where the fun begins.
Prints, buttons, stickers, pins, charms, whatever you make, you're gonna have to have it. Depending on foot traffic or the amount of people that are at the event, you'll want to pack a lot of stuff. But for smaller events where you're not sure about the foot traffic, or if it's somewhat of a newer event, you may not want to bring as much merch. So let's think about what we need to do for selling our merch next. You have to decide now at your table what you want to sell. You're a digital artist, so you're gonna sell prints, you're gonna sell stickers, or are you going to place an order for charms, or are you gonna have, it's entirely up to you. But as a brand new starting out artist, if this is your first time, like this is you're watching this thinking, what do I need to do? I would start with whatever is cheapest and easiest for you to make. For me, it's stickers. I do a lot of my artist stickers. I have prints because I can print my stuff at home, but if you can find a way to get prints either at a local printer shop, or if you can find a way to make stickers at home, which is fairly easy, I would recommend starting off with what's easiest first, and then as you move on with doing more events and more cons as time goes forward, moving up to things like enamel pins and charms and standees and things like that. I would not recommend for an artist starting out to do these things right off the bat, just because they can be more expensive to make and they do have longer shipping time. You're also gonna need supplies for your booth. Most events will provide you a table and a space. Most markets and outdoor places will not offer table and chairs. Sometimes they'll have you bring your own, but sometimes that's not the case. Conventions, on the other hand, is normally they're inside. They will provide you a table space, either 8 foot by 6 foot, 10 foot by 10 foot, inline booth, whatever the size of the booth is when you're applying on the application for what table you want. It'll tell you the price and then the size of it. That'll indicate. Some events have size restrictions from table to the top, or from floor to the table, and then from the table to the top. If the size restriction is kind of something to keep in mind. But when it comes to table supplies, you're going to need something to show off your work, and you're going to need find a way to make your table look somewhat nice. You're going to want to make your table stand out. Designing a table setup or some sort of draft for a table as well is a great place to start and plot out where you want things. I don't do this. I kind of just do it on the fly, but I've kind of had a setup for how I want to do for most of my events. I'll have a setup for a 6 foot table, and I have a setup for an 8 foot table. I also have a setup for sharing a table. These are good to have, especially when you become limited on space. That way you can choose what you do want to bring to the event, what you do want to sell. Because sometimes if you're sharing a table with somebody, you won't have the room, the full 6 to 8 feet that you normally would have by yourself. It helps cut the cost, but then it also reduces the amount that you can sell. It's great, but it just limits that amount that you can sell. Making a table setup for whatever size of table, or even like if it's going to be an outside event, is it going to rain? Is it going to be windy? You got to make sure that whatever you're setting up, that it stands and it stays and it's appealing to the eye. So I'm doing a rough sketch, kind of like where you want your, say your squares to be, or where you want your displays to be, your signage, things like that. It's a great way to start and kind of map out where you want things to be. Starting with tablecloth or table runner, I would recommend any fabric that is enough to fit over the top of, usually a 6 foot table is typically standard for most artist alleys. I've seen it get up to 8 feet, and then sometimes maybe even up to 10 feet in like really large spaces. But 6 to 8 feet, I'd say, would probably be the best size to start. 108 fabric, this is what it's called. This is what I use for my booth. It's a really long and really wide fabric that you can get pretty much at any fabric store. It can be kind of expensive, but it's the only thing you have to buy once. Fabric for table runner or anything you can use to drape over a table to make your table stand out and give you a little bit of pop of color, a little bit of flair, that you're not just having a table. From there, you're gonna want something to display your work. There are a couple of things you can do to display your work. There's things all over Amazon that you can try. They have those. You've probably seen them at events if you've attended before. These storage cubes, they sell them on Amazon. I have a couple of them. They come in different colors: clear, black, pink, white, whatever. They are 12 by 12 squares, so you can build them up. So one square is 1 foot. So if the size limit from table to top is 4 feet, you can only have 4 squares going up. And you can build these structurally, or like merch on it or behind it, like on the front. You can, tape your stickers to the front if you want to have it on there. There's also stacking clear acrylic racks on Amazon as well that they sell, where it's like for nail polish, but you can use them to be for stickers for people to come by and grab off your table. There's also wooden ones as well if you want to sell prints. Prints can also just be taped up on the squares as well if you wanted to do that. There's all sorts of things on Amazon that you can go and look for. Just look for like storage. Just go on Amazon, look up like clear cubes. That'll usually bring up the thing. Mine are clear just because I bought them at the time of them being clear. A couple tips for beginners. Some things that I kind of wish that I knew when I had started. When doing these events for the first time, you will not have everything figured out. You're just going to have to accept that you will not know everything that's going on. And that's okay. That's how we learn, and we learn new things. Cons, getting into them can be frustrating, especially if you applied to them for several years and you never get into it, even if you're upgrading your portfolio and you're working harder on yourself and your work and you're making new products. It's just the nature of these events. Most events are either judged by the staff or people that run the event, or most of the time it's first come, first serve. Either one of those two things, it can be, kind of frustrating to not get into events, especially if this is something you're looking forward to doing full time, or if this is something that you want to just try out and it's like, man, I can't get into any of these events. You will eventually. Just keep working on your stuff. If you eventually will, people will see your work, they'll share it, and then you might get accepted into these larger events. Smaller events are kind of the place to start for starting out, just because you won't have as much product as, say, like a full-time person, and that's okay. That person's been doing it for 7, 8, 10, 15 years. I've been doing conventions since 2017, and there's even some larger events that I haven't gotten into and I've been applying to for 5 years since starting out as an artist. And even like some larger cons I've only applied to twice and have gotten into. For starting out, I would highly recommend either local markets or art events. You can do conventions as well. I would just make sure that the convention you're going to is like a small art convention or something that's not super mega big, because I know that for starting out, super mega big events, especially if selling by yourself, can be very stressful. So that's why I think art markets and local events that are only like a day or two is a good way to get your feet wet and to see if this is even something that you like to do before you pour so much money into it. It can be glamorous for selling at events, seeing all these artists online and how well they do, but not all artists do that well. Because you have to treat it. It's fun to do. It's fun to sell at events. It's fun to go and be an artist and be on that side of seeing how it works. Like, as a convention attendee for so long, I was like, what's it like to be an artist at the Artist Alley? It is fun, but it is also still a business. At the end of the day, you still are making money to put it back into your business. Because the more that you can add to your arsenal for making things, say like, if you're primarily a sticker artist, I would start out printing stickers at home and then, cutting them out by hand. But then as you get further and further into your art career, you can invest into a higher quality printer. You can invest into waterproof laminate, vinyl paper for stickers. You can get invested into a sticker cutter. And those things will help make your business more efficient at being able to make more product more efficiently. Sticker cutters, high quality printers, they're not necessary for starting out, but they are very helpful if you're able to get one and you're in a comfortable spot and able to use those items. If you can, I would highly recommend traveling to events. If you have to travel somewhere, if it's not like local to you, if it's in another city or if it's in another state, with friends, I would recommend trying to sell and travel with them, sharing hotels, sharing transportation, and even sharing tables. Most events will allow you to share tables with another artist. You just have to state the artist you're sharing with on the application so that the Artist Alley can both look at you and the person you're planning to sell with at your table. People like to sell as a studio, multiple groups of people under one banner that sells a studio. Otherwise, it can be kind of expensive, especially for food, travel, stay, and then even if you want to spend a little bit of money at the event when it's not too busy, if you want to go buy stuff from other artists. These are all things to consider when starting off as an artist. So, and able to keep costs low when you first start out, if you can, try to split tables with other artists, friends you know, or people that you may know. Traveling, carpooling is really great because you're all going to the same spot. You can all help pitch in for gas and for travel, and then same for hotels. You can all help split rooms. Try not to make too much stuff. If you make too much stuff as a starting artist and you don't have a large following online, or you don't really have much to start with, and you make too much product, you are going to have to haul that around. Larger events that are with things that you have that are very popular or very well received and liked, those will sell out a lot. But things that are a bit more niche or smaller cons or events, you probably won't sell as much if the foot traffic is not as high. Just know that the more you make, the more you'll have to sell and the more you'll have to carry, which is why having an online shop is also nice too, because in the off times that you're not going to events, you can have that product still for sale online. And then that way, if your product sells out, you can choose to make however much you need next. So if you're going to an event, I would plan to make more than what you normally would carry, maybe just like 5 or 10 more. But if you're selling online, you don't have any events for a while, then you can kind of just keep that stock low until needed to print again. Listen to this. Also, talking with other artists and other people you know and seeing what works for them and what doesn't work for them. Not everything is going to work for everybody, but kind of getting an idea of if someone you know makes something that your niche is in, you can kind of ask them like, what works for you? What doesn't work for you? Like, what are some tips that you might have? And how people do things is also very nice. It won't work for everybody. Not everything works for everybody. So try not to just copy what other people do, because it might not work for you, but it might work for somebody else. And same thing like for yourself. If you do something that works for you, it might not work for anybody else, just because everyone's different. No one is the same at the Artist Alley. That's what makes the Artist Alley so interesting and so unique with all the artists, is that there are no two artists that are exactly the same. Everybody does something differently. All the booth setups are different, layouts, merch, things that they do, practices, and that's the cool part. Going through and walking around an Artist Alley at a convention or at a market is a great way to kind of get ideas on things that you might want to try. There is so much that goes into an Artist Alley that I can't really talk about, or this video is going to be super, super long, but it's just, there's so much that goes into an event. Location, place, time, pricing, things you want to sell, things you want to do, things you want to make, people you want to see, that it's just kind of so much you do have to plan it out. This is not a thing that you kind of spontaneously just go, I want to do this. This takes a lot of planning, even before you've even thought about applying to an event. Because before you can even apply to an event, you still have to have a portfolio ready. If you don't have a way to show your work, then they're not going to accept you into the event just because they don't have anything to base off of what you do. I'd say if you take anything away from this video, I would take away the fact that if you want to start selling at cons, I would start small, start local. Find what works for you, find what you want to do research into local events around you, either in your state, in your country, or in your city. See what's offered in the area first before jumping into anything big. But I would say, yeah, the biggest takeaway is make your portfolio or an online shop, just a way to put your art out there, take good photos. That way you have something to show event runners or people that coordinate the events to see that you actually make the stuff that you make and that you have somewhere to display your work. Decide what you want to sell, prints, stickers, charms, pins, whatever you are capable of making that's not too expensive. I recommend making those. Commissions for either digital or traditional art. Decide how you want those to be done if you want to do it. and then get all the table supplies that you're going to need: storage, displays, table runners, tablecloths, things like that. Like I said before, you won't have everything figured out. That's okay. You will figure it out later. Start small. Try to travel with friends and share things with other people. Table, hotels, travel, things like that helps bring the cost down a lot. Don't make too much of a product when you first start. Try shooting for maybe 10 of a sticker design and then see where that goes. Helping a draft or mock-up of a table setup, very nice to have as well. And then talk to other artists at the event or within a little group circle that you might be in and see what works for them. Best way to also find out events in your area too is that. And that's kind of my 2 cents on selling at anime conventions. There's a lot that goes into it. So, I mean, if you have any other questions or concerns about getting into an event, leave a comment below and I can answer it there for if anything I didn't ask in the video already. But those are kind of just what I go off of for my sort of stuff. Some tips that I would give to beginners. And if you're an intermediate artist, like, what tips would you have to give to new people? Leave a comment down below there as well. That should be it for about this video. I do have a couple more planned. I'm trying to slowly get back into making YouTube videos, but this does take a while and it does take a lot of editing power and time. So I'm doing my best to get these out. But until then, keep making, and I hope to see you guys out there.